If you step into a pub and notice that they have a special discount on your favourite beer, resist the temptation to start guzzling straight from the tap and treat this with the same level of scrutiny you would an email like this, and think, is this too good to be true? Fortunately, ABC Brewery knows they're often impersonated, so they put controls in place to allow you to verify that the beer you ordered is the one you get served. Just like when you order a lager and get served an ale, falling for a phishing or BEC message like this can leave a sour taste in the mouth. So this video is going to cover how email authentication can give the recipient the same kind of warm, fuzzy feelings they get from that first Friday night sip of their favourite drink. To aid with this analogy, we're going to do a comparison of two elements. For the beer, those elements are the glass and the tap. The email equivalent are the envelope and body senders. To be more technically accurate, they're known as RFC 5321 mail from and the RFC 5322 from. And two fictional organisations, ABC and XYZ. In these examples, ABC Beer is the world's greatest, XYZ is a cheaper than supermarket brand poor impersonation. An important point to note here is that the content of the glass or envelope are not being scrutinised. This is all about the ability to trust that they come from where they say they come from. So the first and probably easiest thing to check is whether this pub is allowed to sell the beer of your dreams. On their website, the brewer has published a list of all the pubs they authorise their beer to be sold at. If the establishment you're at is not on the list, then the beer is definitely not genuine. This is the equivalent of an SPF record in email. SPF stands for Sender Policy Framework and allows the owner of a domain to authorise the list of servers it allows to relay mail on its behalf. Just like with the list of pubs allowed to sell the beer, ABC Brewery also publishes a record in their DNS like this. This shows that they trust servers with IP addresses 1.1.1.1 and 2.2.2.2 to send mail as abc.com. And they also trust the third party within this include statement. The beauty of the include statement approach is that if this third party adds more IP addresses to their list of servers, it automatically reflects in ABC's record. The final part defines if the policy is hardened. In this case, they've given a hyphen, which means hard fail. If the IP sending the mail isn't on the record, the recipient should block the message. In this example, a message from a user at abc.com sends a mail from the 1.1.1 IP address. The recipient server uses a DNS request to gather the list of authorized IPs, and as the IP address matches, the SPF check has passed. If a bad actor tried the same thing but sent an email from an IP that isn't in the list or include statement, then the email would be blocked. Crucially, SPF only uses the mail from or envelope sender in its check, meaning the from or body sender could be anything. This is how third parties spoof organisations and is a legitimate part of email. It's also how bad actors fool you into thinking that an email has come from somewhere it hasn't. For the sake of the story, let's say the brewer authorises your establishment of choice to sell their beer and you order a pint. The beer arrives in the right branded glassware, and you can see the beer kegs under the bar. And note that the keg with the right branding is plumbed into the tap it should be. But that still doesn't mean a tricky landlord isn't trying to pass off cheaper XYZ beer as the good stuff. Well, luckily you know this brewer designs their kegs in such a way that they will only fit their taps, and puts a special cover in their kegs that break if someone tries to tamper with the beer. That way they make sure that no one can pass off other beer as theirs, and it's sensitive enough to know if someone tries to water their beer down. This is similar to the way DKIM works in email. DKIM stands for DomainKeys Identified Mail and allows the sender that sends the email to create a hash of the message on its way out the door, to say that the email was in exactly a certain state when it was sent. And the sender publishes a cryptographic key in their DNS to allow a recipient to decrypt the hash. The recipient uses this key and confirms that the mail is genuine because it used the right DNS for decryption, and the hash is matched to show the mail hasn't been altered in transit. This is an example of a DKIM key abc.com may paste into their DNS. And this is an example email. DKIM uses the from sender rather than the mail from, and also includes a selector key in its DKIM headers. The recipient server contacts abc.com's DNS to ask for the key associated with the selector specified. They can then decrypt the hash and make sure the mail is genuine and hasn't been tampered with. Now, both of these methods independently can stop fake beer from being sold in place of the genuine stuff, but there are still potential gaps open to nefarious landlords. What we need is a way to combine the results from both of those tests and also make sure that the genuine untampered beer tastes exactly correct. SPF proves that the pub can sell the beer, DKIM proves that the correct untampered beer is in the tap. We need to combine the results to prove that the beer in the glass is the one you ordered. That's why we need DMARC. DMARC stands for Domain-Based Message Authentication Reporting and Conformance. DMARC uses the results of SPF and DKIM checks, but also makes sure the senders align, meaning the mail from and from use the same domain. Or in our analogy, it's the equivalent of the right beer drunk from a glass with the right branding that was poured from a tap that came from the right keg. This is an example of a DMARC record that abc.com might publish in their DNS. There are 3 different policies available: none, which is used for information gathering; quarantine, which is seen as a temporary middle ground; and final one is reject, which states that if the mail fails DMARC, it should be blocked. In this example, the SPF check is carried out and the DKIM hash check. To pass DMARC, either of these needs to pass, although ideally both. The other factor to pass DMARC is that the domain used in the mail from and from need to align, so a bad actor couldn't pass different domains in each entry. In this example, the mail from and from domains use abc.com and they align, therefore this is a DMARC pass. DMARC also provides a feedback loop by default. The reports are either aggregate, meaning lists of results, or forensic, with more detailed mail information. Those reports are sent to addresses specified in the RU8 and RUF entries in DNS. This is the equivalent of each beer glass being able to feed back to its brewer which beer it's been filled with. This allows the brewery to understand and get a handle on all of its trusted pubs, lock down the pubs it doesn't authorise, and ensure its customers always get the experience they expect. I'll drink to that.